The hosts feel it would be a little unkind to present this podcast without just a word of friendly warning. We are about to unfold the story of Frankenstein, a man of science who sought to create a man after his own image without reckoning upon God. It is one of the strangest tales ever told. It deals with the two great mysteries of creation, life and death. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now's your chance to. Well, we've warned you. Hello, and welcome once again to the Frankencast. I'm the mad scientist, Anthony Bowman. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm joined as always by...
The dildo full of weed, that is Eric Velasquez. My pronouns are also he, him. Yeah! You forgot about that, didn't you?
Perfect.
Yep, I think so. That explains this movie, right? That encapsulates it. We're done, right?
Yeah, it sure does.
Mm-hmm. Transylmania, 2009. There's a lot of actors that you should recognize, but only kind of, sort of. So I was like, hey, I know that person. The first one that I recognized, she will play Theodora Van Sloan, and her name is... Musetta Vander. If you've ever seen that wonderful movie called Mortal Kombat Annihilation, you know her as Sindel.
Okay.
Yeah, she wasn't great in that. Her acting has definitely improved in this movie. Then the other one is actually David Steenberg, who plays Dean Floka. Are you a big 80s fantasy fan there, Anthony?
Yeah, sure.
So he plays Migosh in Willow.
Okay.
Yeah. Honestly, the dude's aged really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely, he was one, I was like, I know him from something, but I couldn't quite place it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, there's a lot of those people, like that guy or girl in Musetta's case. But also, we've got our good friends, Patrick Casey and Josh Miller and the Hillebrands doing their thing.
Yeah, and this cast, it's just huge. There's so many people in this movie, it's kind of hard to keep track of everything that's going on.
Yeah, no joke. There were several points in which I was like, so is this Leah, Danny, or Lynn?
Yeah.
You know? And then there were cases when I'm also like, is this Pete or is this Newmar?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I feel like they could have definitely cut some of those characters, and it would have been fine. The point would have gotten made.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But no, I think they were like, hey, let's have our friends do all the things, okay?
Yeah, and as we mentioned last week, this is, I think, the third or fourth in, a series of Dorm Daze movies, which were kind of, knockoff American Pie movies, or, I think they're part of the National Lampoon's umbrella, but,
right.
I don't think they kind of had quite the level of attention that the American Pie movies did.
No, this was definitely at the point in which National Lampoon's The Brand wasn't very high.
Yeah.
I think there was Van Wilder National Lampoon?
I think so, yeah. It was a little before this, though.
There was this and European Vacation, and those pretty much sealed the deal. It was like,
And it's really interesting, last week we talked, Patrick Casey and Josh Miller wrote... I was a Teenage Frankenstein's roommate, and we talked about, these are, young people, and they managed to be, pretty good about, not being too offensive or saying dumb shit that college students often say and do. But here, which I think this is, 7 or 8 years later, and there's so much more terrible stuff in this.
Yeah.
Which I think is probably a product of, them working under National Lampoons. I think they were probably kind of urged to put that kind of stuff in it, but it is pretty upsetting. We'll obviously get to a lot of it as we go, but content warnings for the R word,
transphobia, homophobia,
a lot of gay panic and transphobia kind of stuff.
This is a weird thing, because Okay, we'll talk about it, but yes, kind of, sort of. It's like it almost dances around it, but also it's like it's too close to be comfortable, but also it's not really fully there.
Yeah, it feels like they could have done. Like, there's a way to do the jokes they were doing that like, punch at the straight guy instead of the trans people. And this kind of, like, I don't know, it kind of leans a little bit more the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, like, really cruel, but I'm sure a trans person watching this is going to feel not great about the way...
It's gross.
Yeah.
But also, Patrick Casey, writer of the Sonic the Hedgehog movies... He did something the Sega Ninja team couldn't do and made Sonic palatable again.
Yeah, Patrick Casey and Josh Miller have like had a really strange career and have done some pretty cool stuff. And they both worked on both of the Sonic movies. And Josh Miller just released a documentary about shark movies that just came out on Shudder. He's like a producer on that. I don't think he like directed it, but. They've been around, they've done cool stuff, but like I think these movies were their first like official Hollywood movies, and it was kind of like do what we're paying you to do and don't mouth off. So I can't blame them for that too much, but I do wish that it was a little less gross.
Yeah. So let's start off with Dear Sexy Dragusta.
Yeah, so this is a really clean way to like set up this movie, especially if you haven't seen the other Dorm Days movies. We have Rusty, who is writing a letter to his internet girlfriend, Draguta, as you said, and he's basically like, he and his friends are going to go on a Romanian study abroad trip, mainly just so that he can meet her. He's got this internet girlfriend on the other side of the world. And so he's telling her about the trip coming up and then telling her about all of his friends so that she can be prepared to meet them, which just gives him a chance for, us, the viewers, to like get introduced to all these characters quickly with fast exposition, basically.
So let's go ahead and run down the list, shall we? Let's do Pete and Wang, who are into quote-unquote stress reduction, just means smoking a lot of weed, and then shoving, and because they want to get the pot out of the country, they're going to shove it up their keister.
Yeah.
They're going to keister the pot.
And they do, like, the whole gag there is that, like, the camera's like, chest height or above, and they're like, we have one guy getting it implanted, and then we see, and it's like a football, like it is huge. So like that's like the kind of the sight gag at the end, as we see how big the thing that they're taking is. And
then Pete turns around and he's like, all right, now we're gonna, to Wang, he's like, we're gonna do you now, and it's like the size of a basketball.
Yeah. And then we meet Pete's girlfriend Leah and her twin sister Danny.
Right. Leah's the bad girl, Danny is the good girl, as he says. That's kind of gross, right?
Yeah. The way that they describe it's definitely like we like her more because she's cool, and then the other one's a goody-goody. And then we meet Lynn and Newmar, who are a couple, and they're both like idiots. They're like the dumb friends in the group. But they're also like they're in love, and Newmar, or they're like obsessed with sex, but Newmar is like a noob. Yeah. He's inexperienced and he's uncomfortable about that because Lynn knows what she's doing.
Well, she's like into role playing. She's like early e-girl situation going on over here.
Yeah, they're doing a whole like cheerleader quarterback kind of role play thing on the football
on the field.
Yeah,
you'd think somebody'd be like, "Get the fuck off our field."
And he's doing a bad job. Like he ends up like headbutting her with the helmet, and like it's not going well for him.
Well, they end up in a situation in which they are going to have sex, and we learn, unfortunately, Newmar's issue is that he is not a 2-pump or 1-pump chump. He is in fact a 0.5 pump chump.
Yeah.
So rough, man.
Yeah, he's got a lot to try to like deal with, but like the nice thing about them is Lynn is really gay. Like she's not. She's not being like mean to him about this. Like she's excited. She wants to like like it ends really quickly, and she's just like uh-oh, and then like they're fine. Like she's not mad or anything.
It's like oops, you had an oopsie.
Yeah, so they're sweet. Like they're more likable than a lot of the people in this friend group.
Probably the most likable, I would say.
Yeah.
Then we have Brady, whose literal only characteristic is nerd. Mm-hmm. So that feels like it was the National Lampoon group going, we need a nerd.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, so Brady is Josh Miller, and his friend Mike is Patrick Casey.
Who we learn is confused, which that's where the homophobia comes from.
Yeah, like here we get a bit where like he's talking about like this cyclist that he thinks is attractive. Like, look at the legs on her, and then it turns out that it's a guy.
Yeah, quite clearly a guy.
Yeah, and then that becomes like the running joke is that Mike keeps being attracted to men that he thinks are women, and it gets worse as it goes. We'll get plenty more of that to discuss as we go.
Yeah. Oh, then we also find Cliff. We get to hear about Cliff, who's the sketchy guy. Every group has a sketchy guy.
Yeah. And he's like, he's next level sketchy. We meet him. He is selling a shipment of sex dolls to Japanese businessmen. Like, yeah, he's up to some weird shit for sure.
Right. And he's like, these are high quality sex dolls. And one guy goes to try one out and it just pops. And Cliff absconds with the money.
Yep. And so then we go back to Rusty. He's finishing up the email. And then he gets a video call from Draguta. And this is the first time he's seeing her on video. They've only, ever shared photographs. So he's super excited to see her, and that she's, of course he's like, okay, good, you actually are as attractive as your picture. You weren't catfishing me. Yeah, so
I guess, yeah, sure. I
mean, and so then he starts bragging about working out, and he takes off his pants and shows her his ass, and then turns around and
shows her his dick.
Yeah, and his recent wax job. And we've got a cleverly placed laptop, so we don't see anything. And
that is until the administrator comes into the room, and he decides, oh, it's time. I gotta shut the laptop, right?
Yeah.
And what does he shut it on, Anthony?
Yeah, we get this extreme close up of it's clearly a dildo or something.
Yeah,
but
it's a plastic dick.
Yeah, but he smashes his dick in the laptop and screams,
which. Kind of funny.
Yeah, it's a very something about Mary kind of joke.
Oh, by the way, credit to them for wearing the credit to Rusty for wearing a Vlad the Impaler shirt.
Yeah, that was nice. Mm-hmm. Then we cut to credits, which are animated. It's kind of cool. It shows them basically on the the traveling to Romania, and
right. They actually sprang for CGI in this. So good for them.
Yeah. But yeah, we get the plane is all janky and the wings are falling off and they're duct taped and everything. You can do some kind of silly stuff with animation that you couldn't do with real life.
Right.
And then
we end up on a train.
Yeah, and that's kind of the final thing is the cartoon train turns into a real train, and we're back with our real crew.
And Brady, who is our exposition dump, is telling us all about the history of Castle Rasvan. And turns out there was some vampire hunter who's an obvious vampire hunter in that the portrait on the back of the book is her holding a crossbow. Right. And she's talking about how there was a point where vampires had invaded the castle and had taken over and were terrorizing the countryside as vampires are wont to do. Mm-hmm. And her name is Theodora Van Sloan.
The story that's in the book is basically that the vampire king Radu took over the castle, and Theodora's ancestor, Van Sloan,
who's obviously Van Helsing, 2004 Van Helsing ripoff.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But then, the Van Sloan, I think, is Edward Van Sloan, who played Dr. Volmar in the original Frankenstein. But yeah, so he fights Radu, and Radu is he's got his bride Stephania, whose soul gets trapped in a cursed music box. Yeah,
Van Sloan's using, what's it called? Is it the Loki Gambit? Where the whole plan is for him to get captured. He can do his nefarious deed, which is just capturing Stephania's soul in a music box and then being I'm the greatest vampire killer in the world! And then jumping out the window to his death because his dumbass son didn't put the carriage in the right spot.
Yeah, and so then the music box ends up falling into a river and floating away, so now the soul of Stephania is trapped in this long-lost music box.
Mm-hmm. Where everyone is, the vampires and the Van Sloans have been hunting ever since.
Yeah. And so, then the other, classmates are so what happened next? And Brady's vampires aren't real. This is a dumb story. Why are you pretending this actually happened?
Everybody's really interested. It's it'll have an effect on the plot later.
Yeah. And, so he's talking, this kind of, high intrigue, action-packed stuff doesn't happen. That's fake. And then meanwhile, outside the window of the train, we have two riders on horseback, like one's chasing another, and they're like...
Right. These are cowboys. These are not people from Europe.
Yeah. And so the guy in front is like firing a gun behind him, trying to hit the person chasing him. And then the person chasing him pulls out a crossbow and fires and hits him.
But then he runs in front of the train as it's passing and manages to get away. Or seems to.
Yeah. And so then we will see that not only did he get away, he got onto the train. He manages to like break the crossbow bolt off, but he's, in kind of rough shape. And starts
also, what did he do with the horse? Where did the horse go?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Okay.
So he starts wandering around the train, and he ends up bumping into like a Romanian woman who's got like a basket full of like roses and little trinkets and stuff she's trying to sell. And then we find that he has the music box we've been talking about, but he accidentally drops it in her basket of wares as he's kind of like stumbling through the train.
Right, and of course that doesn't help things when Newmar pops in, knocks him down, and then he's like, "Oh, hey, how much for this?" The music box.
So now Newmar has bought the music box, and this guy has been knocked off the train. So he's been separated completely from the box. So obviously now we've got our idiot kids with a cursed object, and that's the setup for the movie.
Right. And then we actually get to see more of Wang, and he has an obvious Frankenstein, like Bride of Frankenstein hairdo.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, oh, he's going to get turned into a Frankenstein. That'll be great.
Yeah, his hair's like kind of spiked up really tall, and there's like a wave of like, white lightning streaks on either side. But yeah, Pete and Wang are hanging out with Leah and Danny, and they're all talking about smoking weed. But Leah is shocked that they've brought drugs into the country, and she's offended. And they're like, "Come on, be cool!" And she's, To
be fair, there are a lot of countries where you just get murdered for for bringing drugs into the country.
Yeah. Sometimes you just got to do without. Like I would not be trying to sneak drugs across country lines.
At least learn about where you're going.
Yeah.
Be aware.
Somewhere in here, somebody uses the R word. I don't even remember who, but it's in there.
We also learned that Leah has a tattoo. That's the one bad girl thing she's done.
And like Pete specifically is like, I know where your tattoo is. Yeah. We'll eventually find out where it is, but the way he talks about it, it's like it's in an edgy place. It's a tramp stamp. It's not.
Yeah.
So Pete and Wang decide to go smoke in the baggage car since Leah and Danny are kind of fighting now. And in the baggage car, they see a coffin and decide to peek in. And there's
let's talk about Brady trying to make a move on Leah as soon as they leave.
Yeah,
he's like, "Hey, let's go," and she just shuts the door and closes the window up the notice face.
Yeah, so
coffin,
we've already got the pieces are kind of moving around. You got Pete, who's like the troublemaker kid, but he's dating the goody sister, and then you got the nerd boy who's into the goody sister. So tension there, of course. But yeah, so in the baggage car, we have a coffin. They open it, and there is a very hot dead girl in it that they
Would
kind
you
of
say
like.
She's a living dead girl.
Yeah. I mean, she looks perfectly fine because obviously she's a vampire, but they don't know that. They're just like checking out a girl who they think is dead, which is pretty creepy and strange.
Yep. I'm like, they're considering necrophilia. That's not great.
And then elsewhere in the train, Newmar gives Lynn the music box, and she seems very touched that he's, gotten her this gift.
Yeah, there's more than one way to make a woman happy, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. That feels kind of gross. It's like, I give you presents since I can't satisfy you in any other way.
Right. Yeah, and which especially because she seems to be a very sexual person, but she seems to be like into it. She's like willing to kind of work with Newmar and
I think she just really likes Newmar for whatever reason, whatever that reason is. She just loves the guy for. It's beyond me. Good for her.
Yeah. They seem genuinely happy, so that's sweet. Meanwhile, the train finally arrives, and the students get off at the station, and there's like a bunch of villagers kind of around, and they're asking about how to get to the school, Razvan University. And
immediately, everyone just screams and runs.
yeah. Yeah, like they're not comfortable with like everybody leaves, and then you just see there's like one cart at the back of the station with a guy sitting on it. So they go to him and he's like, "Oh yes, I can take you to the university." So they all climb in his cart and head out. The friends are all kind of talking about the university, and the joke is every time they say Razvan, the horses fart. And this goes on. I was
going to say this is a Frau Blucher situation.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. But this goes on for so long, and like they even figure out what's happening, and they still keep saying it because they think it's funny, and so it's just like lots.
Rusty's like, all right, it's triggering time.
And the girls are not happy about it.
You'd think the horses would just poop at some situation, at some point, right?
Yeah, and then we see that Pete and Wang got left behind at the station. They were in the bathroom.
Token it up.
Yeah, so now they've got to figure out a way to get back to the school, and they run into a guy.
Well, first off, they get the munchies. What do they get to satisfy themselves? Or at least the guy on the motorcycle tells them they're eating?
Oh, yeah, it's like sheep testicles stuffed inside cow testicles or something?
Goat balls.
Goat, okay.
So sheep testicles stuffed inside of goat testicles.
Right.
So,
and Pete's grossed out by it, but Wang's like, wow, that's pretty cool. So there's two kinds of balls here. And he just like takes another big bite.
So the question is, Anthony, is that a racism or is that a stoner joke?
Yeah, I could see if it was flipped, but like it being the Asian guy, it does feel like it's likely like, oh, Asians eat gross, weird stuff.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So now we brought the room down with that one.
Yeah, so they talk to, like you said, the guy on the motorcycle who mentions to them that one thing that's highly prized here in Romania...
Ever since the Soviet Union.
Yeah, is American blue jeans.
Right.
Which I have actually heard that was a thing. It's probably not anymore with the internet and everything, but it used to be a thing that, like, they were a prized commodity. He's like, how much would you, take for the jeans? And then we just cut to the two of them riding his motorcycle away with no pants on. So
right.
Seems like they got a pretty good deal.
Good for Wang and his banana hammock.
Yeah. And they've got like a little sidecar, so it's funny. And then they pass up the cart and kind of speed by them. They're enjoying that now they're the ones in the lead. So then everybody gets to the school, and we meet Professor Theodore Van Sloan, the author of the book we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, and we also get introduced to Dean Flocka.
Mm-hmm. Theodora is apparently, like, it seems like this is an ongoing argument that they've had, that she is convinced that vampires are real, Count Radu is returning, and they need to take steps to protect the school. And Dean Flocka's like, no, vampires aren't real, this is nonsense. Just, teach your regular classes. I don't want to hear any of your supernatural bullshit.
Like an actual fucking paid professor?
Yeah. So then we have the dean giving a tour to all of the students and like taking them around the castle, showing them things. I think they get introduced to the professor as well.
Yeah, we learned that tomorrow night there's going to be the masquerade ball. And that's kind of one of the big plot points of the movie.
Yeah. And then we cut to back in town.
Oh, can we talk about Lynn getting hit on by, what was his name, Maureen? Because, like, as they're walking through the hall, this guy's like, hey, or Lynn's like, I don't really have anything to wear to a masquerade ball. And he's like, well, it would be great if you didn't wear anything. And he puts his arm around her. So, we've got the relationship tension already.
Mm-hmm. And we also get that, like, I think we'll get that Maureen one more time in, like, a minor...
No, he shows up a couple times, but you don't notice, like, it's almost like if you blink, you miss it, but he's there a lot in the movie.
Okay, interesting.
I mean, they tap him a couple times.
Okay.
Yep.
Then we cut to town, and we get Count Radu, who is alive and, is planning something. He's got his couple of vampire brides, including the girl we saw in the coffin earlier. Mm-hmm. They're trying to track down the missing music box.
I feel like Radu's greedy.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, he has three very attractive vampire brides. And, of course, he's trying to get the love of his life, Stephania. But how does that make them feel, Radu, that you're hunting this one down after them?
Yeah.
You got to think about these kind of things.
Yeah, and it's also worth noting that Radu is Rusty. Like, the actor is playing both of these characters, so it's get ready for fun switcheroo gags because Radu and Rusty happen to look exactly alike.
It's great.
The next day, classes have begun, and Theodore Van Sloan is teaching a self-defense class, and it's just straight up, like, Kate Beckinsale, vampire hunter bullshit. But, like, everything, they're like, are you teaching us how to kill vampires? And she's like, no, it's just self-defense. So here's what you do to stake somebody in the heart.
Right. You got to make sure you stab them, but then to make sure they're dead, you have to drive it in with a hammer. And then, in case there's someone who's going to attack you from a coffin, you use a crucifix. I don't think you do that against a normal person, ma'am.
Yeah.
This is some defense against the dark arts bullshit.
Right. And so then it's like later that night, we have Radu and his brides. They have arrived at the university and they sneak onto campus through like a secret passage. We've got like the students all kind of getting ready for the costume party. And the girl that's talking to them, is she just like another student from a different school, or is she like an RA or something?
Yeah, but she's just an RA.
She's basically like, yeah, the costume party's fine, but like there's a cooler vampire party that's like invitation only, and that's what
pretty
you
much
really
the dorks and the nerds go to the masquerade ball. All the cool kids go to the vampire sex orgy.
Yeah.
Which I respect that. You know, I feel that.
Right. Yeah. Who wouldn't want an invitation to that?
I mean, come on. Right.
And because she gives invitations to Mike and
Lynn.
Lynn. Okay. Yeah. I was gonna say I know she just gives out 2. Meanwhile, we have Rusty, who is excited. He's finally going to go meet Draguta. But first,
actually have sex with her for the first time.
Yeah, so like it's heavily implied that like he and Draguta have been like having cyber sex, like they've been sexting before sexting was a thing. But yeah, now it's going to be in person, and he's super excited. But before he goes, he's going to give Newmar some terrible sex advice, so that Newmar can try to be better with Lynn.
Right. Well. Arguably bad, but are also arguably good, because he gives him the Codex Eroticon.
Right. Which is like, it's even more edgy than the Kama Sutra. It's got the serious stuff that will just blow chicks' minds. It'll just turn them into crazy nymphos.
So I'm like, is this a Necronomicon like reference just with porn?
Yeah.
I'll buy it, sure.
Yeah, it seems like it. But yeah, so Newmar's pretty excited about that. Meanwhile, we have Leah and Danny and Pete and Wang are all talking about like what they're going to do for the evening.
Yeah, there's a shadowy cloaked figure like behind them through most of the scene.
And so obviously Pete, Wang, and Danny all want to go into town and get fully wasted.
Hammered.
Yeah, like they keep saying how much they want to get wasted, and Leah's like, I want to take in culture. We traveled across the world. I want to go see what this city has to offer.
Right, let's see art or a ballet. And, here's my response. ¿Por qué no los dos? Why can't we do both?
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's the way to do things is, I mean, like, going to a bar and drinking or whatever, like, that's a part of their culture, too. Like, if you want to see fully how people live, you should see it all. But, of course, Leah's not having that, so Danny, Pete, and Wang leave. So Leah's going to go on her own. But before she can do anything, that cloaked figure you mentioned comes out of the shadows and snatches her away.
Oh no. I wonder what nefarious deeds the cloaked figure has for Leah.
And then we cut to Newmar taking his sex book to show it to Lynn. We see Professor Van Sloan like up on a roof, and she hears a music box.
Well, she's decorating the top of the roof with garlic wreaths.
Right. And as soon as she hears the music box, she's like, she knows what's up. She's like, this is Stephania's music box. So she goes flying in the window, and, we assume that this is Newmar and Lynn, since she has the music box. But no, it's a different music box and a different girl who the professor takes the music box from her, smashes it on the ground, stomps on it, and is like, where'd you get this box? And the girl's like, my mom gave it to me. It's been in my family for generations. And she's like,
she got it from her dying grandmother, and I got it from my mom just before she slipped into a coma and died.
Yeah. So Van Sloan is like, tell no one what's happened, and like rushes out.
Right.
So then we go back to Newmar and Lynn, and they are testing out the book, but we kind of get this cute scene where like they're under a sheet, so we just see like weird body movements, like legs sticking out and stuff, but like it's a very like tame scene, it's not a lewd sex scene or anything. It's cute as they're trying to figure out how to do these strange positions.
Right, but turns out that this is all that Newmar needed because he goes the full distance.
Yeah, they seem like they're enjoying things together for the first time.
Good for them.
Yeah.
Next, we get Maureen, who gets got by the vampire girls. He's just like, hey, girls. And they're like, oh, yeah, come into our room with us. And he does it like an idiot.
Yeah, and while that's going on, we cut back to Rusty, who's now like wandering around the woods, looking for Draguta's house, and he's got printed off MapQuest directions, which is such a 2009 thing. Eventually, he finds a house, and he's like, "Okay, this is it." And he knocks on the door, and the dean opens the door, and he's like, "Oh, hey, Dean, I'm looking for this chick named Draguta. Sorry, I must have the wrong house." And he's like,
"Nope."
Yeah, Draguta's my daughter. Come on in.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so that's, strange. So the dean leads Rusty to see Draguta, and she does indeed have the beautiful face that he saw over the internet, but she is a cartoonishly deformed hunchback.
Well, just her back is cartoonishly deformed. Everything else is pretty fine.
Yeah, she's just leaning over and has like... it's like not just, like Igor from Young Frankenstein, like her shirt is ripped open, and so we just have, like, you have a weird, like, it's played up to look really gross and lumpy and body horror-ish. It's supposed to make her seem disgusting. And, of course, Rusty immediately faints. And
womp,
when
womp,
he...
womp.
Yeah. So we're definitely going to get some, like, ableism, body-shamey stuff going on with Draguta. Once Rusty does wake up, the dean decides to give him a tour of his torture dungeon.
Right.
This is like the dad with the shotgun thing, but like times 1,000. Because
hilariously, it's kind of the reverse, though.
Yeah, true. It's not like don't touch my daughter. It's like
no, you're going to touch my daughter.
Right. And in fact, like he shows him various like Iron Maidens and racks and stuff. And then the last thing is there's a guy chained up in stocks who is Draguta's last boyfriend who broke up with her. Yeah, so he ended up trapped in the stocks. So he finally gets freed because now Rusty's in the picture.
Right. I do like how he just walks over to Rusty. He's like, thank you.
Yeah. Then back at the school, Leah is getting ready for the costume party.
Lynn.
Lynn. Yeah, Lynn and Leah. Those
I know. The names were not chosen well.
So she's getting ready, and she ends up like sticking her finger on something.
Pin in her dress.
Gotcha. Okay.
Apparently she's a seamstress. She's making her own costume for the party. So once again, going back to the e-girl thing.
Right. True.
Pre-girl. But yeah, then she pricks her finger, walks over to the music box, as you do, and drips blood on it, and then boom, hey, we have Stephania back. Welcome back, Stephania.
Yeah, so Stephania is possessing her, and suddenly, like, she's, talking in, like, with a Romanian accent.
Right. Very much more serious than Lynn was.
Yeah. Lynn has, like, she's got an airhead quality to her. Like, she's just a bubbly blonde, and Stephania is very intense. And
very intense.
Newmar's like, oh no, the sex book worked too good. I've turned her into a nympho.
Yeah.
And then Stephania closes the music box, and suddenly she's Lynn again.
Right. And by the way, while she had it open, Radu apparently could sense her at that time. And the moment she closed it, he's like, okay, where'd she go?
Yeah. Yeah, so now we've got that kind of device in play, that the music box opens and closes, and that changes who Lynn is.
Right. Gives her that split personality and all that stuff.
Yeah. And then back with Rusty and Draguta, he is trying to escape her, basically. He's like trying to find a way to get out of her house, and it's gross. Like, it's just, he's had this relationship with this girl, and now is instantly just throwing her away because he doesn't think she's attractive. Meanwhile, we go to a bar where Pete and Wang and Danny are hanging out. I think Wang has gone to get drinks or something, or no, he's talking to some other people, but Pete and Danny start making out.
Yeah, that's great, right?
Yeah, so we've got, his girlfriend's twin sister he's making out with. That's real bad on, like, so many levels.
Yeah.
And then, Wang does come back, and he's like, so I met these weird guys, and I gave them a couple pairs of blue jeans, and they're going to take us on an illegal hunt.
Yeah, we're going on a hunt tomorrow.
Yeah, and Pete's like, we don't hunt, though. And he's like, but, dude, this is an illegal hunt.
Illegal hunt, right.
And he's like, okay, I do like illegal shit, so let's do it. They don't even know what they're hunting.
But also, at this point, we see that Marine we see him walking around with the vampire girls in the middle of the field.
Gotcha, okay.
So let's talk about the hunt now.
Yeah, so the Romanian guys, they have this big crate, and all of our Danny and Pete and Wang are set up ready to hunt, and
Danny has climbed up a tree. She's about half up the tree for some reason.
Yeah, and they're like, I wonder what it's going to be. And then the guys open up the crate, and it's Cliff.
Oh, no.
So our one sketchy friend who did not come on the trip is now suddenly also on the trip.
Right. Turns out he was, they caught him and basically sold him to be hunted?
Yeah. And
Rough.
They're like, wait, what? We thought we were hunting. And they're like, yeah, it's the most dangerous game.
Hey! They said the thing.
Yeah, and they're like, we're not going to hunt our friend. And they're like, well, you've already paid. We're already out here. And they're like, well, can we just have him? We paid. And they're like, well, I don't know. That seems like you could get us into trouble. And he's like, what about if we give you some more jeans? And they're like, all right, more jeans.
Right.
We'll do it.
This economy is built on jeans.
Yeah. And so then we've got the next morning, everybody's sitting around in the cafeteria, eating breakfast. Rusty comes in, and the rest of the guys are all like, so, did you meet your internet girlfriend? Mm-hmm. It's like the my girlfriend in Canada thing. He's like, yeah, I met her. She's super hot. We had a really great time. But she's really shy, so you guys probably aren't going to meet her.
Right, and then immediately Dragusta shows up, and she's like, hey, and everyone's like, that's your girl.
Yeah.
Which, that's mean. I mean.
Yeah, now all of the guys are just openly mocking her to Rusty's face while she's right there as well. And he
doesn't even defend it.
Yeah, Rusty ducks under the table. He's trying to hide. And Mike's like, I had a hunch there'd be something special about her.
Right, well, and then Rusty's like, at least I didn't make out with a guy in Cancun. Which...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Mike's really upset. He's like, I told you that in confidence, and I thought it was a chick. And, so, again, gay panics that, because that, Rusty was hurt by, his, gross girlfriend. And so the worst thing he can say about Mike is that he might have some, gay tendencies or whatever. And Mike's very upset about that. So all the guys get up to leave, leaving Mike sitting there, and every one of them makes a gay slur at him as
they say later, dude, kiss her. Yeah. I mean, at least it was something childish like that.
Yeah, I think one of them says really fudge packer, those kind of yeah,
I didn't hear that one.
Yeah, I mean, at least it's not like the F slur, but yeah, it's still... Yeah,
they're dancing around it.
Yeah. So then we cut to class, and Danny looks over and sees that Draguta is wearing a necklace that is Leah's. And so she asks her about it, and she's like, my dad gave it to me. He's always giving me nice jewelry. I don't know where it comes from.
Yeah. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Yeah, so that's not good. And then we cut to her dad, the dean, who is still arguing with Van Sloan about the existence of vampires.
Right, and Van Sloan's like, all right, clearly this driver who had driven the kids to the school earlier, then the vampires got him. I don't think we mentioned that. But she's like, clearly there are 2 bite marks on this man's neck. And the dean, being in denial, for whatever reason, I can't tell, is like, no, clearly the guy just fell off his cart and onto 2 spikes that are really close together.
Yeah. And then he just completely bled out, and that's why he has no blood anymore. And she's just like, but I mean, just to be safe, how about just let me stake him and decapitate him? And I think
body.
Yeah, he's like, no, he's an employee. Every time that an employee mysteriously dies, I give the body to their family and let them do what they want with it. So this is an ongoing...
wait a second, though, because this brings up a whole mess of questions. Because if he's doing this and these people are actually being drained by vampires, is he not just inadvertently spreading a vampire plague?
Yeah, it seems like it.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I was picking that up right.
Then we see that Pete, Wang, and Danny are listening in on this conversation. So Van Sloan and the dean leave, And Danny's like, I know he's up to something. You know, his daughter had Leah's necklace, so they follow him, and he goes down into some catacombs.
Yeah, but it's almost like he disappears because there's no door there.
Yeah, just suddenly they run into a wall, and he's just gone.
The wall surrounded by skulls and bones.
Yeah, it's a very, like, you know, old Paris catacomb situation. So, like, what do we do? So they decide to smoke weed for inspiration.
As you do.
Right. Which actually works because, is it Wang that...
Yeah, Wang decides to play the scullaphone.
He picks up a couple bones and starts, like, playing, like, the marimba on skulls, and it's, like, playing a little tune, and then he just keeps doing it, and suddenly...
It's so dumb that this works.
Yeah, it's so goofy.
Stupid.
But, like, a door pops open, so that's the trick. It's like the piano thing in a video game, but here it's skull marimba.
Somebody was playing Moonlight Sonata.
Yeah. So they go in and they find...
We get a Frankenstein lab.
Yeah. So if you were worried, like, hey, this has just been vampire shit, why is the Frankencast talking about it?
We're going to get the Frankenstein stuff real quick.
Yeah. So it's a full-on mad science lab, and then they see Leah's head is just sitting on this big, like, mechanical device.
She's just like, hey, guys, and they're all like, holy shit!
Yeah. How is she alive? Yeah. But before they can do anything, they hear somebody coming in, so they all go hide, and it's our mysterious cloaked figure from earlier. The figure enters, the cloak opens up, it's the Dean. And we didn't mention, the Dean is a little person, and this cloaked figure is very large. He's kind of like got this weird like exoskeleton suit that he's able to go around in and look completely different, so that, you know, he's not going to be, you know, no one's going to suspect the Dean of being the mysterious cloaked figure.
Okay, I love that he says, yeah, this is my disguise. I'm the Castle Freak. Like from that wonderful 1995 Stuart Gordon film, Castle Freak.
Yes. Yeah, Castle Freak being a reference here I thought was really funny.
Yeah.
We find out that the plan is he's been using this to scare people and kidnap people so that he can create a new body for Draguda. So... when we see the body over to the side, this is mostly Leah's body. And that's why she's just a head on a table. But I think there may have been like arms and legs from someone else or something.
I think there's a lot of implication that those parts did come from a lot of other people. But it's like, I mean, Leah's body was just fine. You didn't have to literally cut her in several different places just to stitch her back up.
Yeah, I mean, it basically just so that it could be a really Frankenstein-y looking monster instead of it just being a new head.
Right. I think, well... We'll learn that he even selected specific breasts for his daughter, which that makes it worse.
Yeah, that is weird. Mm-hmm. So then we cut back to the school where Rusty and Mike bump into each other, and they're both kind of mad because they hurt each other's feelings. They sort of reconcile, and Mike's like, I have a spare ticket to the vampire orgy, and Rusty's like, can I have it? And he's like, what's in it for me? And Rusty like pulls out like a wad of like Romanian money, and he's like, I think this is like maybe like $10 or something.
Not gonna cut it.
Yeah, so then Rusty gives him his cool white shades.
Right, and that's apparently enough. That mends all wounds.
Yeah. So, so they make the trade. Then we go back down to the lab where Pete and Danny are talking to Leah, like the dean has left, and Pete's like, there's something we need to tell you, Leah. And Danny's like, no, there's not. Nope. There's nothing we need to tell you. And they're like, come here. And so they like, move over to the side, and she's like, I'm not confessing to what we've done to my sister while she is a decapitated head. Like, that's not fair.
I feel like that is the wrong time to say that, right?
Yeah.
But then we learn that Wang has a secret. He apparently was a med school student, and he's like, this is good work that this guy's done, but I think I can put her back together again, folks.
Yeah, because he's like an art history student now, but he's like, yeah, I was pre-med for a minute before I changed majors, so I can figure it out.
Yeah.
Or no, music appreciation. That's what it was.
Right.
It's just like a complete, like, non-degree. So he goes over to look at the body, and, like we said, it's like, stitched together at several points around the arms and legs, and even, like you said, the breasts are attached separately. And he starts kind of like just, inspecting, seeing if it's going to, like, work out. And he manages to, like, pull a thread, and it gets, like, tangled on him. And then we get this whole slapstick bit where he keeps turning in circles and unraveling more thread, and they try to stop him, and
Pete gets involved and wraps around him too.
Yeah, Pete's tangled, they fall over, he finally gets it loose, but then it like it gets wrapped around a fan blade or something, I think.
And just gets whirled around there.
Yeah, everything stops and he's like, okay, everything's fine. And then suddenly the body just completely falls apart. Like, it's just, and they're like, why did he sew the entire body together with one single thread?
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Wang says, I can fix it.
Yeah, so now he's going to have to sew the entire body together before he can put Leah's head back on.
Then we cut to Cliff, who's clearly bullshitting a bunch of girls, and he's like, I'm one of the greatest vampire hunters that's ever lived.
Right. And Professor Van Sloan is very interested in that. And so they're talking about that, she's a vampire hunter too. They should go hunting together. And Cliff is just, he's the sketchy friend. He's just making up bullshit to try to pick up girls. But he's going to yes and this as far as it can go and hope that he can get with the professor.
Right. She reveals one of her strongest weapons is the garlic dart. And apparently, it basically is vampire drugs. That's how she explains it.
Yeah.
Let's not forget how Cliff was like, I became a vampire hunter when my family was killed by a bunch of vampires.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, like he's just so full of shit.
Oh, yeah. It's wonderful. But yeah, going back to Lynn and Rusty, dressing for the party.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they both have tickets to the vampire orgy party. They're super excited. Of course, Rusty's costume for the vampire party is it's Radu. So like now they look exactly the same. Rusty goes to Pete because he wants to buy some Viagra because he's assuming he's gonna need a lot of it for the orgy.
Pete's just like, all right, here's my box of the stuff. And Rusty's like, all right, I'll just take a handful. As Pete's trying to explain to him, maybe, don't take so many because there's a lot of things. And
because it's a mixed pill bottle, but he just hands it over and Rusty just opens the lid and just like downs a bunch. And then Pete's like, there's all kinds of shit in there. What did you just take? And he's like, I don't know. I wasn't looking. I just downed them. And he's like, well, only the blue ones are Viagra. There's also, I don't even remember. He lists all kinds, it's full of all kinds of drugs. And he's like, you just.
Like, oh, wait, I forgot. I ran a Viagra yesterday.
Yeah, so you definitely didn't get what you wanted, but you got some other stuff, and that's going to be interesting for you.
Yep, have fun there, Rusty.
Yeah. So then he heads out, and we run into Newmar, who's in the library, trying to do research about Lynn's new split personality.
Right, he's wanting to reverse that new split personality, which I hate to tell him, it's not going to be that easy.
Right. And while that's going on, Lynn does open the music box again and turns into Stephania.
Hey, and Radu, of course, senses Stephania immediately.
Meanwhile, Cliff and Van Sloan are on their vampire hunt date, but like Cliff's really, he's like, all right, let's go. And Van Sloan's like, well, let's split up so we can cover more territory. And he's like, all right,
we can't have sex if we do that.
Yeah, that's not what he was in here for, but he's going along with it.
Well, she was like, "Hey, I like where your head's at, but once we kill the vampires, then we do the sex thing."
Right.
Okay, fair enough.
And then Rusty is like in some other kind of like hallway catacomb area, and the drugs kick in, and now he's fully lost and just like out of his mind, stumbling around.
I feel like they couldn't afford the rights to the Jefferson Starship.
Right.
What is that song?
White Rabbit.
White Rabbit. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then Stephania and Radu actually run into each other, so we actually have the two as they should be. They like kiss. Newmar happens to see them from a distance and thinks that it's Rusty trying to steal Lynn, his girlfriend. So,
well, Rusty is a genius because he gave Newmar the eroticon, so that he could induce split person. I don't know, man. There's a logic train that's wild in this.
Yeah, he warned Newmar that it could turn her into a raging nympho, and it seems like that's what's happened, and now Newmar is scared that she's too much of an nympho.
Right, so he tries to confront Radu, and Radu just force pushes them away.
Yeah, just like completely knocks him out. And then we have Cliff up on like a balcony area or something, like a stone sort of parapet or something. And he's sitting on a bench and manages to shoot himself in the leg with a crossbow. And he's like, I thought we were cosplaying. This is a real fucking crossbow? What the fuck?
Who would give a person a real fucking crossbow?
Yeah. But he's like pinned his leg to the bench. Like the bolt went that deep.
And of course, that's when Sloane comes in, checks on Newmar, and then just starts like pelting Radu with her little garlic darts.
Mm-hmm. That manages to work. Radu kind of runs away. Back up on the balcony, Rusty bumps into Cliff and sees him nailed down to the bench and tries to like help him remove the bolt, which immediately causes like a geyser of blood to spray up.
A comical amount of blood.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Cliff would have passed out and died.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Cliff's like, all right, put it back.
So he just stabs him again, and he's like, no, in the same spot.
Right, he stabbed him in a different leg that time.
Yeah. So, again, just it's all like slapstick nonsense. And then Van Sloan sees this all happening and thinks that Rusty is Radu attacking Cliff. So she shoots him with more of the darts that have less of an effect because Rusty is not a vampire.
Right. And I love how Cliff's like, serves you right, asshole.
Yeah.
How's it feel?
So then we cut to Mike, who has bumped into Radu, thinking that he's Rusty, and he's like, all right, let's go to the vampire party. Come with me.
Right, he just walks to the vampire party. Let's have some blood, man. And I guess he gives him like a Bloody Mary.
Yeah.
Radu doesn't like that too much, though.
No. And then Stefania bumps into Rusty and thinks that it's Radu, and she starts making out with him. And then while they're making out, the music box gets slammed shut. And suddenly she's Lynn again and is like, Rusty, why are we kissing? What's going on? So she's freaked out. So she kind of runs away. And we see Newmar writing a strongly worded letter to Rusty. But it's like, he's trying to be sarcastic, so he's like, I hope you really enjoyed having sex with my girlfriend.
Hoping that he gets the sarcasm.
Yeah.
It's like, no, buddy, that's...
And then Lynn bursts into the room and is like, I don't know what just happened. I like blacked out, and suddenly I was in the hallway kissing Rusty. Newmar's like, yes, I understand. You have become a split personality nympho, and we'll figure this out together. At the vampire party...
Oh, Mike is confused. He's like, why hasn't Rusty done something embarrassing yet? He always does something embarrassing.
Yeah, so that's why he brought him to the party, was to have him make a fool of himself.
Right.
So maybe he hasn't forgiven him that much. But then, school security guards or something arrive and kind of break up the party.
Girl comes in and she's like, it's a bust! Because it's a party.
Yeah. Then we've just got Rusty by himself in the party. Van Sloan appears.
Oh, you mean Radu?
Oh, it is Radu. So Van Sloan and Radu are fighting each other, but then the dean rushes in and is like, don't hurt my future son-in-law. You're fired, and leads Radu away. And then we go back to the science lab where Pete and Danny are trying to help.
They're trying to help Wang.
Yeah. But they're just vomiting over and over again. They just keep filling buckets of vomit while Wang tries to sew the body back together.
They're absolutely sympathetic pukers.
Yeah. And then we see Radu, after being rescued by the dean, he goes and stumbles to his coffin where he just passes out. And then immediately school janitors or some kind of school staffers pick up the coffin and carry it away.
Right. And then we cut to the next morning where there's a priest. Does he have Tourette's or is he possessed?
I think he has Tourette's.
Okay.
It seems like a weird joke. There's no payoff. It's just this one little bit, and it's just... I mean, now we kind of know that, that's not really,
that funny?
Yeah. I feel like at this time period, Tourette's was, a big thing people made jokes about.
Versus a serious condition in which actually tortures the people that go through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is definitely more ableist bullshit. There's no defending it, but it was definitely a more common humor trope at the time.
Right. And
yeah, the priest is trying to give a funeral, but is occasionally interrupted by yelling profanities and stuff. And then
Radu bursts out of the coffin.
Yeah. So this is supposed to be the funeral for the carriage driver that Van Sloan wanted to decapitate earlier. But yeah, Radu bursts out, scaring all the funeral goers, and he escapes. Meanwhile, Rusty wakes up in the morning, and he is in bed with Draguta.
Well, also, Radu runs around smoking. Literally smoking from the sun. And he tries to steal a bike from a little girl.
Yeah, he has a blanket or a coat over his head or something. But yeah, he's not doing well. And yeah, it takes a while. He keeps trying to ask the kid to give him the bike, and the kid won't. And then yeah, eventually we'll see later that he did in fact steal it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so Rusty wakes up. He reaches over and feels Draguta's hump and freaks out. And he's like, "What happened last night?" And she's like, "We had the sex. We had lots of the sex." And
the way you stroked my hump drove me wild.
Yeah. and he's like, listen, things are just moving too fast. Like, I think we need to end things before it gets out of hand.
Right,
and
before
then,
she's fully able to process it, the Dean bursts in.
Mm-hmm. And, like, Rusty tries to hide, but, like, he, like, tries to jump behind the bed. But, like, he lands on, like, a side table or something.
Yeah.
So he's still, like, just there at, eye level. And the Dean's like, you were in bed with my daughter? And, Rusty's, like, trying to get away. And he's like, the Dean's all excited. He's, like, so happy that somebody had sex with his daughter.
Congratulations.
Dragutta's like, but he was just getting ready to break up with me.
He gaslights her.
Yeah, no, I wasn't. I wasn't going to break up with you. Not at all.
I got to go to the bathroom real quick. Hold on.
Yeah. And, of course, instantly escapes out the bathroom window. Dragutta sees that he's gone and is all upset. And the Dean's like, don't worry, honey. I have a surprise for you.
You're going to get your big present tonight.
Yeah. She's like, you found out how to remove my hump? And he's like, yeah, in a manner of speaking.
Okay, so it's easier to cobble together a working body, than it is to remove a hump. I feel like there's leaps in logic here. I'm just saying.
It does not make a lot of sense.
No. I mean, I guess it's a comedy, so it's not supposed to, but still.
And so then back at school, Lynn finds a book about alien abductions.
And immediately assumes that's what's going on.
Yeah. She's like, that makes perfect sense. That's why I'm losing chunks of time. That this is... Okay, I understand now. Meanwhile, Newmar bumps into Rusty and starts confronting him about Lynn, and he's like, says something about, like, I know you've been having sex or something. Rusty thinks Newmar's talking about Dragutta.
He's like, don't tell anyone, it could ruin my reputation for having sex with her.
Yeah, so then Newmar punches Rusty.
As he should.
Yeah, definitely.
Just in general, not for anything in particular.
Right. Yeah, so, we got a little comedy of errors there, which we're going to get more and more of that as we go. Mm-hmm. But then Lynn opens the box again, turns into Stephania again, and sees the unconscious Rusty.
Did you notice that she was wearing tinfoil bunny ears at this point?
I did not.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So then, Stephania carries Rusty to the vampire lair.
Mm-hmm. Well, Stephania also is like, oh God, I reawakened in this idiot's body.
Yeah. Rusty wakes up and sees Newmar's sarcastic letter that's like, I hope you have fun having sex with my girlfriend. And he thinks he's at the vampire orgy because there is Lynn dressed like a sexy vampire, Stephania, but he doesn't know that. And then the other vampire brides. And so he's like, yeah, I guess Newmar wants me to have sex with Lynn and these other two hot girls? Sure.
So, what a great pal, right?
Right. So definitely missed the sarcasm there. And the vampire brides are all kind of dancing around. I think some of them, do they take off their tops at this point?
Yes. Yes.
We get a little bit of gratuitous nudity because you got to have that in one of these kind of teen comedies.
Yeah, and also they want to make sure that Radu's back up to snuff, so they've got to give him some blood. That's when they go over and reveal they have literally installed a tap into Maureen.
Right. And Rusty looks dead into the camera and is like, what happens in Romania stays in Romania. Because I'm glad, like, that Las Vegas joke was inescapable for a little while. I'm glad it's kind of finally faded away.
Yeah.
They give him the goblet of blood, and he thinks this is just part of the game or whatever, and he drinks it and is like, oh, this is real fucking blood. And so he realizes, like, no, I am with some actual vampires, and I'm just a regular guy that they think is a vampire.
Right. And so Stephanie's like, you have to tear out my heart, this body's heart, and shove it into my body, Stephania's body.
Yeah, that's how we're going to revive the real Stephania.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So Rusty's, like, trying to get away, but, like,
he does a really bad Radu impression.
Yeah, he actually does the blah, blah, blah thing, so that's inescapable. He ends up, the box gets closed, and so now Lynn is like, what's going on? Rusty actually figures it out. He's like,
They have to do the sex ritual, and they get in a fight over the sex ritual, and he just shuts the box, and it's like, okay.
Yeah. And so now Rusty is the only person who knows the way the box works.
Right. However, Lynn is like, oh no, you're an alien, Rusty. Yeah. You're the alien.
Yeah, so he manages to, like, carry her away, but she's, like, protesting the whole way. And then meanwhile, we do see Radu on the bike, getting back to the school.
He's kind of stoned and dying, basically, and he's like, I need blood. Mm-hmm. And, of course, that's immediately when a Red Cross Jeep pulls over. And he spikes the camera, too. He's like, hey, ding, ding, gives a little wink.
And, so he gets one of the bags out, and it's like Capri Sunning this blood bag. And then we go to Pete and Danny, they're like, well, we can't really help Wang, but like, we should probably go to distract the dean so he doesn't show up and interrupt as we're like getting so close to finishing this project.
So what's their distraction? Danny's going to call out to the dean and Pete's going to smash him over the head with a vase.
Mm-hmm. But then they distract themselves by making out instead. And so the dean just walks right past them. They completely don't see him. He goes straight into the lab where Wang realizes like he doesn't have time to finish the project, so he just grabs Leah's head and escapes with that.
But of course, that's when the dean like brings in his daughter on a gurney. He's like, well, it's time to do the old switcheroo.
Yeah. And the dean also, he gets on the walkie-talkie and is like calling for security, and he's like, there's an Asian man running around with a blonde girl's head. Capture them and bring them back to me. And whatever that head says, don't listen to her. She's a fucking liar.
That's so good, though. That's actually legitimately great.
Yeah, that's one of the best jokes in this, I think. Mm-hmm. I think Wang and Leah overhear that conversation, and they're like, no, they're going to be looking for us like this. So they actually come up with a pretty good trick. They put on a cloak, and Wang like kind of leans his head back and puts Leah's head in front of his. So it looks like there's just a girl walking around in a cloak instead of an Asian guy carrying a head.
It just so happens that she has the body shape of the Asian man and also is wearing his clothes.
Right.
But obviously nobody's going to be looking for that. Who would?
Right. And so they're just kind of walking around, and then they bump into Brady, who's like, oh, Leah, why aren't you at the dance? And she's like, I didn't really feel like it. And he's like, come on, I'm going to take you to the dance. She says something like, Pete stood me up. He's like, that's not right. I'll take you to the dance. I'll be your escort.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, and so they can't really fight too hard. Yeah, so now they're being dragged to the dance. While they're at the dance, isn't there another bit with Mike? Yeah.
Yes, he walks up to a group of girls, and he's like, hey, ladies. And they're like, aren't you the guy who kissed another guy? And then they all laugh and leave.
Yeah, and he's like, yelling, I thought it was a chick. And it's like, it just keeps going.
And then we get Brady trying to ply Leah/Wang with drinks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's like, we just get a lot of classic gags where, like, Leah doesn't have the hands. The hands are Wang's, but Wang can't see because Leah's blocking his vision. Yeah. So, they're having trouble drinking. There's just a lot of, like, funny hand gags. Leah is, like, getting annoyed with what Wang's doing, so she's like, let's go dance, Brady. Why don't you just really dirty dance? You can just really grind up on me and, like,
make sure you grab my ass. Which Wang's like, you suck.
Yeah. So Leah's enjoying this kind of nonsense that she can get up to, at least. Mm-hmm. But then while they're dancing, Draguta arrives, and she is in her like hot new body. She picks up a glass and takes a drink, and like punch sprays out of the back of her neck because she's not perfectly stitched up. As Brady and Leah are dancing, they're dancing so vigorously that Leah's head flies out of the cloak, flies across the room, and lands in a girl's lap,
who freaks the fuck out and tosses the head into a trash can.
Yeah. Pete and Danny arrive at the dance, and they see what appears to be Leah. They see
the stamp.
They see a tramp stamp that they recognize, and so they walk over and they're like, "We've got to tell you the truth, Leah. We've been making out or whatever." And they're like, "Wait, you're not Leah. Who are you? Why do you have Leah's tattoo?"
Then from the trash can, "You were doing what?"
Yeah. So they run over and find Leah's head in the trash can. Then Brady takes who he thinks is Leah into the corner and is kind of like trying to kiss her, and then gropes between her legs. But, this is not Leah, it's Wang.
Gropes Wang's Wang.
Yep. Yeah. And is so, again, a little bit of gay panic jokes here. Wang punches him. And then outside the dance, Rusty and Radu both kind of arrive at the same time. They don't see each other at first.
Yeah, they're at like this picture-taking station where you can stand behind the wall and get your picture taken.
Yeah, it's like a picture frame on a wall, but it's like cut out so you can look like you're. But so yeah, Radu walks up to it and Rusty does like the mirror gag. You know,
he knows what's up. Rusty's like, oh, if this guy knows, I'm fucked.
Yeah. So, yeah, he's trying to mimic him and everything. It goes on for a while, and then suddenly Radu's like, wait a minute, I don't have a reflection.
And that's when Rusty decides it's time to dip.
Yep. So he runs away, and then the vampire brides bump into Rusty, thinking it's Radu, and so does Van Sloan. And so now we've got a big fight breaking out between Van Sloan and all of these vampires, and Rusty's like, brides, get her! And he just like, escapes while the fight's going on.
And she's definitely trying to kill him too. Because she's like, you're Radu, you're gonna die.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Radu sees Numar and Lynn, thinking that Lynn is Stephania, and then sees that the box is closed, and he's like, open that box, girl. She obviously doesn't want to. Then Radu pulls out a sword and is going to attack Numar, and we didn't mention earlier when they were doing the self-defense stuff that Numar has taken a fencing class in the past, so...
Well, not only that, he was co-captain of his team, his high school fencing team.
Yeah.
So he's pretty good, I guess, at sword fighting.
Yeah, so we got Radu and Numar sword fighting on a table, and then inside the dance, Rusty bumps into Draguta and sees that now she has a conventionally hot body and not a hump anymore, and he's like...
So, of course, he loves her, and he promises never to hide on her or run away from her again. Mm-hmm. Immediately, Sloane arrives, and he immediately runs and hides.
Yeah. And so from here, like, it's just everybody is now at the dance at this point. And it's just like pure chaos. It's a lot of fun. So we got like different combinations of people confused about what's going on. Everybody's
Sloane
fighting
trying
each
to kill
other.
Rusty, then Rusty just barely missing Radu and running into Numar and Lynn, and they're like, "Stop trying to abduct." Or Lynn says, "Stop trying to abduct me. Kick his alien ass for true love."
Yeah.
That's a great line.
Yeah. At some point in there, Stephania does get control of Lynn again, and then Stephania and Draguta start fighting over Rusty because, Stephania thinks it's Radu, and in the process, Draguta's arm gets ripped off, and the dean comes running in, and he's like... And this part, I thought... I don't think it quite makes up for all the ableism in the movie, but at least it tries to a little bit, because the dean's like, what kind of monsters would laugh at a deformed girl? Like, this is cruel, because, as soon as her arm falls off, everybody's just kind of, like, pointing, and then Leah is like, well, what kind of monster would kidnap a girl and cut off her head?
It wasn't me, it was the castle freak.
Yeah. Of course, Leah's like, no, I was there. I saw it.
She's
it was
like, you are the castle freak.
Yeah. And Draguta's like, wait, you stole this body from somebody? And she's upset. That's not what she wanted. She wanted to feel better about herself, but not at the expense of, taking a life from somebody else.
Yeah.
And then Rusty and Radu finally meet face to face.
And they get in their own little sword fight. Apparently, Rusty's pretty good at sword fighting.
Yeah. Somehow he holds his own in this duel. And at that point, campus security arrives and they arrest Van Sloan because she'd been fired. She should not be here at this party.
Yeah. They knock the crossbow out of her hand that she was going to use to kill Radu.
Yeah. And they cuff her. But
who picks it up?
Yeah, Cliff gets it. And she's like, shoot Radu. And he's like, which one's Radu? I can't tell. Okay.
Clearly this moron.
So stupid.
Like, there's one that has fangs and is talking in a vaguely European-ish accent versus a guy with flat teeth and is absolutely a Midwesterner.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's like, dude, I'm your friend, it's me. Like, it's so obvious. But finally Cliff does figure it out. He shoots the right one.
Well, he shoots on accident.
Oh.
Yeah, he's like, I don't know which one to shoot. And he drops the crossbow and it fires off and hits Radu in the heart.
I didn't even catch that. That's great.
Yeah. Yep.
Radu falls over dead. Van Sloan crushes the music box, freeing Lynn to just be herself again.
Right, and that turns Stephania's actual body to dust.
Mm-hmm. And then we just cut to back in the U.S. where Cliff has been recounting this whole story to a group of girls. So he's been narrating this whole story, basically, telling them about his prowess as a vampire hunter.
It turns out he wrote a book, and he's being a grifter and trying to use that to get with girls.
Yeah.
About the greatest vampire hunter in the world, Cliff. What's his last name? I don't even remember.
Yeah, I don't remember either. Yeah. And then it cuts back to him slaying Radu, but now it's kind of like a fictionalized version where he knows what he's doing and he looks really tough and cool while he does it.
He says a one-liner.
Yeah. And then I think the girls are like, so what happened after that? And we get sort of the exposition thing that we got at the beginning. Now here it's Cliff, and he's telling these girls the wrap-ups for everybody's story. So Brady and Leah finally fall in love, and even though she's just a decapitated head, they were never able to fix that. They're happy, and they have a magic show in Vegas where they're able to use her just being a head to their advantage to do some cool tricks.
Yeah, and we get, I don't know, man. Is this offensive or not? Because at the end of that scene, there's the Siegfried and Roy reference. And I'm like,
Yeah, they're upset that, like, these guys, that they're doing better tricks. But, like, the Siegfried and Roy, it, again, feels like it's a gay joke. Like, it just feels like they're mocking them.
Of course, we have Roy with his face all scratched up. And
yeah, that definitely felt a little weird.
And then we get Mike, who's dancing with a woman.
Yeah. This is a trans woman that he's dancing with, and Mike's really into it and stuff. And then the woman speaks back to him and has like a very deep, manly voice.
Well, so what happens is they're dancing, and he's like, "Hey, you want to go back to my place?" And he pulls out a rubber, and then she also pulls out a rubber, and he's like, "Wow, extra large! You must think highly of me." And then she's like, "You won't be disappointed. Trust me, you won't be disappointed."
Right, yeah. So, previously it's been sort of like leaning into the gay stuff more, but here it definitely feels like it's just mocking trans people. Yeah, it just all around just feels pretty gross.
Yeah.
And then we see Wang, who has become a plastic surgeon with his own reality show called Dr. Transylmania.
Sector 90210.
Right. He's like gonna give this girl breast implants. She's there with her boyfriend or husband or something. He ends up just giving her one giant
massive breast.
Yeah. And obviously she's very upset. So he's still a complete idiot. Meanwhile, Pete and Danny ended up staying in Romania, and they are now like in the blue jean black market.
Right.
They're very wealthy from their imports.
Lynn and Newmar are now instructors for the Codex Eroticon. They're teaching whole classes.
Yeah, they teach like sex classes, and they're in like these like silver leotards. They kind of look alienish. Which
there was a lesbian couple here, so I guess they're only against gay dudes.
Right. And it's like everybody's like contorted in these insane like pretzels. In fact,
they do this amazing chariot of fire bit where they like start off at the ends of rooms and they like run each other and do like flips.
Yeah.
And they land apparently together because you hear thump. And, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty silly. Van Sloan moved to the U.S. and became a cop since she couldn't be a vampire hunter anymore. She also got her own reality show. I forget what it's called, but it's just cops,
It's cops, yeah.
But she's still obsessed with paranormal stuff. So, like, she goes to try to arrest this guy, and she's like, "You're a werewolf. I know you're a werewolf." And he's like, "No, I'm not a werewolf." And it's just like a dude. Like,
and even the cameraman's like, "I'm pretty sure he's just a guy."
And she shoots him. Yeah. And then
Rusty and Draguda.
Yeah, they're the last one. Yeah, they're happy. They get married and they have a baby together, and so then we see the baby, and of course he's a little hunchback baby.
Well, he also looks exactly like the grandpa in that he has stubble and like the weird pointed hair.
Yeah,
almost like devil horns.
Yeah,
and yeah, like you said, the hunchback. Which, first off, that's Leah's body. How does that work?
Right. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense now that you say that.
Right.
Like, it would have made sense if they had surgically removed the hump,
right.
But she would still have the genetics. But no, this is Leah's body. Yeah, it's bizarre.
And that's where we go out on.
Yeah, that's the end, is another little hunchback joke.
Yep. So mixed bag.
Yeah.
To a point, like, all right, let's talk about Mike. Because we knew we were going to end up talking more about Mike than anything else. So, to a point, is it being like, hey, yeah, we're going to tease Mike because he has these proclivities, but there is also points where it's like, it goes over the line, right? When they start calling him names and stuff.
Yeah.
And then, like, at the end, there's also, obviously, him with a trans woman. And then that's a very, like, 1980s / National Lampoon bit, right?
Yeah. I mean, like, even like, I was thinking about, like, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I remember in one of the early seasons there was like an ongoing gag where like Mac was into this girl who had a dick, and like, you know, it was like everybody made fun of him about it, but
they were cool with it, and that was kind of what, you know.
Yeah,
right?
Eventually, like over the course of that show, I think the writers and the characters grew, and like, you know, Mac ended up coming out and being gay and being like okay with all that and stuff. But like, this is definitely before all of that kind of, like, I mean, I guess 2009 was probably around when It's Always Sunny started, now that I think about it. So I guess that's around the same time. But yeah, it definitely feels like, because Mike is one of the more minor characters too, it's hard to say what his actual feelings on it. Like, if he's gay, that's cool. If he's attracted to trans women, that's cool. But like, he's just kind of a one-note gag, and you never
or if
really...
he's bi or...
Yeah, it's like, you never really get to know like what his intentions are, and like where to put your offendedness, I guess, really.
Right.
Like,
or if he just has a really awkward like eye condition, and then which that would just be ableist.
Like, the thing at the end, it seemed, I mean, it's pretty heavily implied that he does not know that the person he's talking to has a dick. But
right.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like it could have been done differently, where that's just what he's into, and that's fine. But yeah, we don't ever get that. So it definitely like manages to like belittle gay people, belittle trans people, just all around. Like, I feel like, you know, as much as like I think Patrick Casey is like one of the more you know, we had him in Teenage Frankenstein's roommates, and he's interesting, like fun actor. Like, I like him on screen, but I kind of wish that he was just edited out of this movie, because he's only the one gag, and it's not good.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like if we could cut a couple characters, as I said earlier, we could probably cut a couple characters and it would be just as fine, if not better.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, the thing that's frustrating about that is when you rely on those kind of jokes, then like it just like pulls the whole movie down, and it's like, the actual, like, the construction of the Rusty and Radu thing and the Lynn Stefania music box thing.
That's fun.
Yeah, it's really
Even
fun.
Even the little love triangle.
Yeah, all the weird love triangle configurations, the way that everything comes together at the end, where everybody is mad at everybody else because they don't know the actual situation, and there's all those clashes and everything. The way that they wrote that, like, to make all of those pieces come together just so perfectly at the end, I mean, it's like a well-oiled machine, and it's so good. Yeah. But the stuff that just makes you, like, roll your eyes just kind of detracts from all that, and, like... I feel like this movie would have been like, you know, a solid teen comedy of like I would grade like a, you know, an A- or something, but I feel like it is like a B- or C+ because there's so much like offensive humor that just does not hold up well.
That's fair. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Anything else to say about it?
Yeah. I mean, you know, if you're into those kind of like trash teen comedies, it's fun. It's worth a watch, especially like because it is rare. You know, as we talked about last week, we've talked about a couple times recently that like with like Boltneck and stuff. This combination of like teen comedy and monster movie didn't happen very much, and so it is fun to get a movie like this. But yeah, definitely go in prepared to have some stuff that is not so great.
Is it weird that I like strangely just prefer I Was a Teenage Frankenstein's Roommate?
Oh, yeah, I agree. It's a good example of, like, what creative people can do when they're left to their own devices versus what creative people kind of are forced to do
when a paycheck.
Yeah, like, this is definitely studio manipulation going on. And it definitely feels like you can tell these movies are made by the same people. There's like a similar vision in terms of like the humor and the pacing and stuff. But like as low budget and poorly made as Teenage Frankenstein's Roommate is, it's got more heart. It's more genuine. It's kinder to its characters. Yeah. I definitely enjoy it more. I'm much more likely to rewatch Roommate than Transylmania for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Anthony, where could they find us?
So you can find us on all the socials at The Frankencast. You can email us at thefrankencast@gmail.com. You can find us over on YouTube, and you can also find us at patreon.com/thefrankencast, where we're still doing the free 1-week trial, so you can jump in. We've had a couple people take advantage of that. You can listen to as much as you want in a week and then decide if you want to stick around or just take advantage of the free week and move on with your life.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of fun stuff there, and there's going to be more. There's always going to be more.
Yeah, we're getting, I think it was around 70 episodes over there or something. So yeah, there's plenty.
We're getting on up there.
Yeah.
All right. Anthony, so, I mean, I guess our back-to-school special is effectively done and over, right? I mean...
Yep, this is the end of that.
Okay, well, in that case, maybe we can get back to a little bit more, basic stuff, like, the creationism of our art, as it were. Like, maybe the creator, Mary Shelley.
Yeah. So yeah, you may notice if you look at this week, the episode you're listening to right now, this is episode 99. So we figured next week for the big 100, we're going to go back to the lady who started it all, and we're going to talk about the relatively recent...
Shelley.
Yeah, it's a biopic about her life and about the writing of the novel. So I thought that'd be kind of a fun way to get back to the roots.
Absolutely. It's going to be fun.
Yep.
All right, folks. Well, thank you all for being with us for, almost 100.
Yeah.
And to be continued.
Looks like you survived another episode. The Frankencast is a production of FCR Media. It's hosted by Anthony Bowman and Eric Velasquez. Follow us on Twitter at The Frankencast, or send us a letter at thefrankencast@gmail.com. Our cover art is by Amanda Keller. You can find her at Keller Illustrations on Instagram. Our theme music is by Vivek Abhishek. Thanks for listening.